Mr. Speaker, our greatest parliamentary exponent of parliamentary democracy coined the phrase "in victory, magnanimity." And although, as one or two of my friends know, I am a leaver and my constituency voted 60% to leave, I think that should be the approach that this government should take, both to Parliament in this chamber and to our European partners and allies. I don't think it's enough just to allow time on a rainy Thursday on a one-line whip. I think the government should be as generous as possible in time to allow this House to consider these matters, and personally I don't see why we couldn't have had 3 or 4 days on this bill when so many people have put in. After all, we do spend a lot of our time discussing not very much. So I would be open-hearted and generous with Parliament. And before I just refer specifically to this bill, can I just say, by way of introduction, I think it would be useful also to improve the whole atmosphere around this process. The truth is, this is a democratic process. Those of us who asked for us to leave the European Union put our arguments on the basis that we wanted to improve parliamentary democracy and put our people back in charge. And that should be our whole approach. And that should be the approach of the government. And by way of context, I would also be open-hearted and generous in these negotiations that are taking place between Monsieur Barnier and our Secretary of State for exiting the European Union. The important thing is that we are leaving, but I don't see why we shouldn't be generous with a financial settlement. Generous, of course, as the law dictates, but there's also the spirit of the law. And when you have been in an organisation for 42 years, and when you decide to leave, they have their own spending plans. I don't see why we shouldn't assist them with some of their spending plans till 2021. After all, if we pay less, others will have to pay more. I know some of my closest friends will not agree with that. We have the law on our side, but precisely because you have the law on the side, on your side, you can be generous. Now, in terms of the rights of citizens, I've just been with Italian senators visiting this building and with the Italian ambassador. I really do think that we need to be open-hearted and generous in terms of European citizens living here, and proclaim now that we are absolutely committed to preserving their rights of everybody, every EU citizen, both in terms of benefits. I know we've done it, but I think we should keep repeating it, that we are determined to protect those rights. So open-hearted and generous, dealing with the House of Commons, in dealing with money and in dealing with the rights of EU citizens. And if you approach life in these negotiations in that spirit, I think doors might start opening. Now let me say to this bill, I listened to the Shadow Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, a brilliant lawyer. I mean, we're both lawyers. I'm just a jobbing barrister doing criminal law in London. I was when I was a young man. I can't possibly match his debating skills. He does have a point, though, and I think us Conservatives should recognise that. He has a point. My right honourable friend for Broxtowe has a point. The right honourable gentleman for Birkenhead has a point. My right honourable friend for Rushcliffe has a point. I will of course, be voting for this bill tonight because that's what the people want me to do, what my constituents want me to do. I think there's no alternative. But when amendments come, when we are sitting here in committee of the whole House, you know, I'm on the chairman's panel, I know the position of the government is always to reject all amendments. Well, this time, actually, be positive. You know, think to yourself, if this is actually improving parliamentary scrutiny, we're going to get our way. The government has a majority. It's supported by the DUP, and be generous with our Scottish friends. If they have a genuine desire to ensure that any powers that come from the EU do not come to the Westminster Parliament, go to the Scottish Parliament, then be generous with them. So although I know there's a lot of false anger, I've sat through so many of these debates where Shadow Secretaries of State have sort of puffed themselves up. And we've heard a lot about Henry VIII. When I was a rebel, I used to care about these things. You know, now I'm a loyalist. I let the government get away with it in so many ways. I mean, Henry VIII is a bastard, but he's my kind of bastard. So I've made my point, Mr. Speaker. Listen to the House. accept some of the amendments, ensure this is time limited. The key thing for our constituents is this, that we leave the EU at the end of March 2019, that any implementation period is only lasts 2 years, that we then become an open, free-trading nation with the whole world, with a free trade agreement with the EU. Stick to the essentials. Be confident in yourself, be generous with the House, and we'll win this battle.